But are you worried that you might be turning off some people who would like to support grassroots?
But you asked me to come here, presumably because you thought I had something that some people might be interested to hear.
Yes, and we will get onto it, but it is important, isn't it, if you're trying to push...
I don't know when we'll get onto it. We're almost finished the interview.
How do you know? Might have you on here for another 10, 15 minutes.
I very much doubt that.
You're right, I'm not going to have you on for 10, 15 minutes. But if you're going to convince people of an argument, they've got to believe in the big players that are there.
Please stop this. You misled me into coming in here today, and every question you've asked has been about me. I'm campaigning amongst my 1 million followers on social media, on the radio, on the television, on platforms, on the streets, for Britain to leave, for a series of important reasons to which you have not yet turned.
I will get to it if you would just answer the one question then.
No, but I don't want...
When have you ever not wanted to talk about you, George Galloway?
It's so childish.
Well, hi guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us again. George Galloway. He's an interesting fella, and he's always box office. You never know which way George is going to go. On the face of it, I always think, I don't really like George Galloway, but then there's always something that George says, or a side he takes, or an opinion he has, and I always think, yeah, I quite agree with that, actually. Very strange. He's sort of... I don't know, he's somebody you can't really put in a box and pigeonhole. Yes, I know he supports Palestine, and he's obviously very friendly with the Islamic side of the fence, but still, he's got some interesting views. And this clip that I'm going to show today, that we're going to look at today, is from when he was when the Brexit question came up, and he was supporting Nigel Farage, which I think everybody found quite unusual that he came out for Brexit. And this was an invitation he'd had from the BBC to go on the politics show, and he was ambushed as usual. And they obviously, because the BBC obviously were very much against Brexit, and of course they wanted to ask him a lot of questions probably about siding with Nigel Farage, and sort of pushing the fact that it was it not a right-wing narrative, so it went against what George Galloway is about, and why was he involving himself with the Brexit argument. And I think they found it just as confusing as everybody else, that he was very pro-Brexit. So they tried to ambush him with a bunch of questions that he wasn't prepared to answer, and of course he was box office again, because when George is never going to be forced to answer questions just because he's on a TV programme. He's very much self-assured and very confident in himself, and so it was quite an interesting conversation. As much as they tried, the presenter tried to go down the avenue that she wanted to and go with the narrative that the BBC wanted, George was not having any of it, and so it was quite a tense, fiery clash that we got, which was quite interesting to watch. I'm not going to carry on talking about it. Let's get into it. Here we go.
George Galloway, it seems your unveiling wasn't quite the triumph that grassroots out would have hoped.
Not for the first time. You've misled me by asking me to come in and talk about the referendum, but instead wanting to talk about me.
I'm sure we haven't misled you. Well, hang on. I'm sure we haven't misled you.
No, I won't hang on. If you had told me that I was coming in to discuss me, I would have said there are much bigger issues that the British people are occupied by than 6 or however many vox pops you had.
But this is going on to the issue, as you say, of the referendum, because it's
let's
how
talk
powerful.
About the referendum.
All right, but let's talk about the referendum. Yes, but I want you to answer this. You want to defend, what you're doing here.
I don't want to defend me at all. You're not my judge. You're not fit to be my judge.
Well, thank you very much. All I'm trying to say is, are you going to be a benefit to this campaign if there are people that are going to walk out?
You asked me to come in to this studio.
Yes.
I didn't ask you. You told me you wanted to hear my views on the referendum
and I do.
On the European Union. So can we move on to that, please?
Well, are you happy to link arms, to use the Prime Minister's expression, with others that you do not agree with?
I don't link arms with anybody.
Well, you are metaphorically
it's a binary choice.
Right.
You're in or you're out. The last fellow you had on, who said he wouldn't share a platform with me, claimed £40,000 off the taxpayer to heat his horses in a stable.
Right, well, hang
Would
on.
I really want to link arms with him? No. But if he can bring any no voters into the polling booth, and if I can bring any no voters into the polling booth, I hope that that will be enough.
So this issue, what we were trying to say about this whole interview is that this issue, as far as you're concerned, is bigger than people's
such a childish thing.
Except,
you know,
well,
Tony Blair is for yes. Does that mean that anybody who's for yes is associated with Tony Blair? It's such childish discourse.
Right, except that political bedfellows can sometimes lead people to say, is one being authentic about the issue? If, for example, you said about Nigel Farage, his aid smear should disqualify him from any civilised company henceforth. But you're going to put that aside in order to campaign for this issue, which you think is bigger.
It's bigger than all issues.
Right,
It will affect
So
the
what do you
lives,
say?
the future of all of our people for the rest of time.
So what do you say to those people who obviously don't feel it is bigger than their personal antipathy towards you?
Well, more fool them. I hope they're not going to vote for the European Union because they don't like me. That would be a very foolish and childish thing to do.
But are you worried that you might be turning off some people who would like to support grassroots?
But you asked me to come here, presumably because you thought I had something that some people might be interested to hear.
Yes, and we will get onto it. But it is important, isn't it? If you're
I don't
trying
know
to
when
push...
we'll get onto it. We're almost finished the interview.
How do you know? Might have you on here for another 10, 15 minutes.
I very much
Now, look,
doubt that.
You're right. I'm not going to have you on for a 10, 15 minutes. But if you're going to convince people of an argument, they've got to believe in the big players
Please
that are
stop
there.
this. Please stop this. You misled me into coming in here today, and every question you've asked has been about me. I'm campaigning amongst my 1 million followers on social media, on the radio, on the television, on platforms, on the streets, for Britain to leave for a series of important reasons to which you have not yet turned.
I will get to it if you would just answer the one question then.
No, but I don't
And
want...
when have you ever not wanted to talk about you,
It's
George
so
Galloway?
childish. It's so tabloid. It's so Daily Mail.
God forbid we should ever be tabloid here at the BBC. Are you and Nigel Farage going to be able to attract and keep enough support for this campaign that you say is important enough to override any other personality or politics?
I don't know because the public haven't voted yet. But I am convinced that Britain should leave. So is Boris Johnson for his own reasons. So is Nigel Farage for his own reasons.
What is the overriding reason for you campaigning
Because
out?
I believe in democracy. I believe that Britain should control its own events. Who comes into our country, who can be told to leave our country, what our foreign policy should be, what our economic policy should be decided by the British people in a British Parliament. It's not rocket science.
Have you always held that position?
I have always believed
That we should
in
pull out of the EU?
1975 I campaigned.
But a lot of people in the Labour Party at that time also
it
campaigned
was
to come
orthodox.
out.
What I'm saying now was orthodox in the Labour Party, and I cling to the views about the EU of Mr. Benn. But the last straw for me was Greece, was the crushing of democracy in Greece, which told me, and ought to tell Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell, that if they attempted to implement the kind of policies which they believe are necessary, and I agree, then they will be crushed underfoot by the EU bureaucracy and by the power of the European
So you
Union.
have returned to the issue of workers' rights, which was actually what the basis of Labour's division in 1975. So are you disappointed that somebody like Jeremy Corbyn isn't pushing harder to actually look at that issue?
Well, I think that the Prime Minister's negotiation was flannel. It was smoke and mirrors. If Jeremy Corbyn had been going into those negotiations, he would have raised far more fundamental issues. I know why, given the domestic balance of forces within the British Labour Party, why Jeremy Corbyn has been frankly hobbled on this question. But I'm clinging to the view I took under the leadership of Tony Benn, and I'll continue to do it with all my breath. If anyone is persuaded by it, I'll be happy.
There you go. You had your say then, finally, on the issue. George Galloway.
So there you go. It was. I know it's another retro one, which is what I sort of do. We will do some more up to date, fiery little arguments and interviews and things coming up, but I just thought that was really interesting, and it shows, because I always get confused by George Galloway. He's somebody who you really, he seems like quite a dislikable person, but then he'll do something or say something that's quite, I think, yeah, that's what I really agree with that. He does it quite often, actually. In fact, I even find myself watching his podcast, the Moat podcast, which is often really good and really insightful. And so, yeah, it's just typical BBC. That's what they were trying to do all the time through Brexit. Obviously trying to pitch, a lot of the Brexiteers against each other to try and cause trouble because they didn't want Brexit. Obviously, it didn't work in the end. And maybe George got us over the line, who knows? He would have attracted quite a lot of the Islamic community, that's for sure, and they maybe voted for him to come out. So well done, George, in that respect, and well done for taking on the BBC and not taking any shit off them. But it's nice to see, and other people should do the same. Anyway, thanks for that. Thank you for watching the video. It's great to have you back. If you could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And I will see you on the next video. Thank you.